Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? Let me just check everything's working here before we begin. Um, yeah, I thought I'd do a bit of a Friday night live. Just a quick one tonight. I don't really want to go for too long. I don't want to go for 2 hours because it's quite late for me in the UK. But I do have some shows coming up over the next week, live podcast visits and shows. And I feel like I need to kind of brush up on this whole Millennial Kingdom topic a bit more before I talk with these people because for some reason I've been invited onto a podcast tomorrow. I think it's a new startup podcast. Um, I can't remember the name of it right now, actually, which is quite embarrassing. But yeah, it's a fresh new podcast, and they heard me talking to JC Fowler's JC on the Decoding Babylon podcast, and he asked me if I'd come on and talk with him. And then he says he wants me to talk about the Millennial Reign. I thought he wanted to do a Nephilim clown show more than anything. I thought that's what it was going to be. And then I realised, okay, so I'm being invited to talk now as some kind of authority on this subject. I should probably get my facts straight first before I start speaking publicly about this on wider platforms. Not only that as well, but Tony from God Rules has invited me to come onto his channel to talk with him about this subject too. Um, and now I think he heard this topic from my channel, but obviously I am not the person who came up with this concept or is the leading researcher or expert on this concept. I'm just a guy who's picked it up and started speculating and theorizing about it because I think it's a fascinating topic right now, and it's perhaps the next big thing in the conspiracy world, you know. But yeah, Tony's an old friend. I've talked with him before in the past about many things. He's been on my channel before, about 6, 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago now. I've just been talking with him, and we've arranged for Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 8 p.m. UK time. I'm going to be having a talk with him about this, so that should be great fun. So that's something to look forward to. But that means, obviously, if I'm going to be talking, he has quite a big platform. You know, I think he's got something like 400,000 subscribers on one channel, 120,000 on another channel, or something like that. So this is no small audience, you know. So I do have to get myself ready with some answers for this, ready to come with the receipts, should we say. So I've been compiling things over the past couple of months. I've been discussing this. Don't get me wrong. I've got a few I've got a few bullets in my gun, shall we say, in the chamber. I'm not not completely inept at this. But there are people out there who've done a far better job than me at compiling, the dates and the times and the specific details about areas and what I want really is this show today to be a bit of a collaboration. I want you guys to help me share anything at all that you think is like a key component to this theory or otherwise doesn't get thought about when it comes to certain topics or little segues into this, Because, I mean, let me just get up my document to share with you right now, and I'll show you. Let me just pause that in the background as well. Um, yeah, let me just show you here, right? So, sorry, I had to find it for a second there. Let's just get that up. Let's close that because that's in the way. And I will just do a quick screen share with you guys now so you can see what I've been looking at. There we go. So this is just a document I've been slapping together. And I say slap because that's exactly what it is. It's very haphazard. It's for me more than anything, But when you actually think about this topic, there are numerous facets you can go down to discuss. Because I listened to the first half today of Vitali on the guy who runs Alpha Talks. I was listening to him talk with Jason and the guys over at Decoding Babylon, and he was doing the breakdown of the Millennial Kingdom, and he's coming with like Bible verses and dates and locations, and he was going down so many random like facets in this first hour. And I forgot about some of these things. For example, like melted buildings and evidences for just melted rock everywhere, And again, that's one facet, one key point, isn't it, within this whole theory that it needs to be added into the whole puzzle. It's like one piece of it. And I feel like if I'm going to talk live with people about this, I may miss pieces, and I don't want to miss any pieces. I want to try and give a good overview, holistic image of this theory, of this concept, so people can go away understanding it a bit better, because that's what I do, understand conspiracy. So they can go away understanding and thinking they have a basic grasp of what the theory is exactly and entails without misunderstanding anything. Because I do find with this topic, people misunderstand a lot of what's actually being said. Because when I say, the Millennial Kingdom has come and gone, that's the theory. That's not enough, because some people interpret those words as, so if you're saying the Millennial Kingdom has come and gone, then, where's the evidence? Because everything should be perfect and Jesus should be reigning everywhere and everything, and the new heaven and earth should be created and everybody should be, living in immortal light bodies type of thing. And that's the issue, you see, because they believe when tribulation happens, Jesus Christ comes immediately, and immediately it brings a new heaven and earth. They don't even know about the little season part, so it's not enough just to say the theory is, we believe the Millennial Kingdom has already happened on earth in a physical sense, and now we're in the little season. Like, people don't know what that means. They don't understand that, it's some do, some don't, and I get it in the comments, and I see the evidences that that is not a complex enough description of the theory for people to actually grasp what's really being said here. Just for some of the facets here, for example, that I've got on the top is, Jesus said he was coming back immediately, not in 2,000 years. So there's just one talking point there. Maybe these should be bullet pointed, just so it's not as confusing, maybe just, so another fun one, obviously, which I've not really talked about, is there's plenty of evidence of golden ages documented throughout history in different cultures. It's not just the shared culture through architecture as well. Why there's a specific weird design of architecture with pillars and ornate designs and structures like a square-typed, cathode-type structure, and never mind just cathedrals, but there's this specific, what we would call maybe Romanesque revivalist architecture, but it's everywhere. It's on every single continent in cultures where you just wouldn't expect to see such a design, and there's that alone. But then also there is a shared cultural global story of a golden age of some type, where everything was peaceful and prosperous for a long time, and the atmosphere was different. There was like maybe two suns in the sky, and everything was perfect and warm, and it was just a different time for humanity to be alive, so that's another strange evidence. Then there's obviously the evidence of there's melted buildings everywhere, and it looks like the earth has been absolutely scorched with fire in many places. I think Vitally was talking about how the desert, for example, in the Middle East and Northern Africa, and it's just complete dry, desolate wasteland when you actually think about it. And, you got the pyramids, which are in this incredibly dry place, and they were theorizing these are places that had tribulation happen, and extreme fervent heat in true, day of the Lord fashion, fire coming down, Sodom and Gomorrah stuff, this place was judged heavily, and what remains is this desolate landscape, of just sand and glass and heat. And people argue these are natural formations, but it doesn't seem that way. You can look across to America as well, and you see America is, especially the middle of America, is utterly barren, desolate wasteland again. The deserts of America, of Nevada, and the Grand Canyon, for example, is a giant scorched piece of earth with it's got the electrical pattern there as well. That shows that it looks like a lightning bolt has struck through the ground, not rivers slowly forming natural grooves. It doesn't. That's not what it looks like. So that, again, there's these evidence of melted buildings. Then if you go historically, there's these major fires that all happened in the 1800s that seem to burn down all these beautiful buildings, which is just outrageous. I mean, we were actually talking about this in the Telegram group the other day. See if can't find it. Maybe I'll have to go really far back for this. Did we perhaps put it in the history section? By the way, if you haven't joined the Telegram group, give it a try. You can come join. We're 770 members up here, as you can see. We have a great time. We talk about all sorts of things in here and share ideas. Links down below in the description. But where is it? Where were we talking about? I think MK Ryan was posting loads of things as well about his own hometown and how it was just all these odd stories everywhere. Talking about these buildings that were seemingly built in a very short amount of time, and they all seem to be mental asylums or places for the feeble and the weak and all these type of things, but they look like incredible buildings. Here we go, so this is the idea of shared architecture. I mean, look at this thing. Where is this again? Is this in like Indianapolis or something, or Ohio? It's just in the middle of nowhere. This is Maryland School for the Deaf. Let's give all these deaf children a mansion, like an ornate mansion. These stories don't add up. They're wild, and these things were all destroyed by fire and then rebuilt and then destroyed by fire again. The backstories are just nuts. They don't make any sense whatsoever. Look at this thing, and you get the historical here, Indiana. That's it. This thing was built in. 10 years. This thing was built in 10 years, they say. When was this one? What was this? In 8 years. This one was built in. It's kind of. Sorry, this one was built in 8 months. Like, that's ridiculous. These things are huge, and it takes longer than that, and especially with the technology they would have had in the 1800s to build these things, it'd take longer than 8 months. And it's just bizarre, just odd architectural style, isn't it? But I was showing, these things get destroyed by fire. I think someone here was posting how he's looking into his history, and it's wild. It's like, why? Like, this is it. The original Battle Creek Sanitarium. It was destroyed by fire in 1902, then rebuilt a year later. So this is the original. It was destroyed by a fire, and then this thing replaced it. It's like, what? This thing's enormous. This is huge and so complex with that style, that pillared style. Dedicated in 1903. It doesn't say builded, built or anything. And here's a photo of the fire as it was happening, apparently. And I was saying, it's the same in every city. It's everywhere. These stories of these buildings being destroyed by fires is everywhere. It's a copy and paste story. And I said, in my home city, we have this city hall, this old town hall here. Look at this beautiful thing. It's on the main square. Well, that was gone. Surprise, surprise. A fire mysteriously started and the building was destroyed. And it's beautiful. Luckily, this Harris Museum on the left here survived. And this other arcade in the background here in the middle survived. But this one beautiful looking clock tower type, modelled after Big Ben style building, was burnt down mysteriously and replaced by this hideous monstrosity. And this is sadly the story. The museum on here just has some work being done, but it looks pretty much the same and untouched. But even that building alone looks insane. It's nuts the way this building looks when you actually look at it. And this is a small town. Why it had such an amazing building built there is so bizarre. But I find it interesting that they always they can't replace these beautiful buildings. They just can't do it. They can't fix them. They can't. They could struggle to fix them, but they definitely can't rebuild them once gone. And this one just screams that advanced architectural style, doesn't it? And apparently inside was beautiful as well. There aren't many photos of it, but and replaced by this disgusting looking thing. And I think I sparked an imagination wave because everyone else was looking at their own. But you look at these things and look at the inside of some of these buildings. It's insane the amount of details that have gone into these seemingly arbitrary buildings as well that aren't really used for anything important. by the standards you think they would be used for. Um, yeah, incredible stuff. Anyway, I'll come back to this. So I've got this thing, and again, there's mud flood evidence everywhere as well for Satan's release. Other talking points and questions that, we have to ask are, so where's the location of the camp of saints then? We all think it's the North Pole. And I talked about, there's the North Pole mythos that there's Santa Claus who lives there, who's an all-seeing, omnipotent deity who's making a list of judgments, whether you're naughty or nice. But in this version, he's a fat guy with a white beard who brings gifts and presents or whips and punishment to people with his demon Krampus. It sounds like a Jesus parody, like an inverted Jesus, Santa, Satan, this omnipotent godlike creature who brings material stuff as a reward for following the rules. But Jesus obviously brings eternal life, treasures in heaven for following the law. Did you get what I mean? It's like a parody, isn't it? And I asked this question, so who are we then if this is the short season? Are we the descendants of people who survived through the millennial reign, or are we perhaps the resurrected dead, as described in Revelation 20? Do we have a purpose to be living in this time? What's our role? Is our role, if that's the case, simply just to fight in an army against the camp of saints, or can we choose not to? And could people are questioning, could we exodus ourselves to the North Pole and enter the camp during this time of the Gog-Magog war to protect ourselves from the fire that's about to come down and devour everyone who makes war with the camp? These are weird questions to ask, you know what I mean? But everything is up in the air now with this theory, and we have to try and speculate of possible outcomes on the chance that this is the truth. This is actually what's going on. Depending, again, when is the timing of the second resurrection in Revelation 20? It says the rest of the dead don't live again until the millennial reign is over, but it's kind of, okay, so is that immediately, or is that sometime after the millennial reign is over people are resurrected? Are they resurrected at the end of time, just before the final judgment? Another question, another thought process is, are they currently faking tribulation right now? Are they trying to make it look like it's happening to convince us we're in a futurist world, where Jesus is about to return for the second time? His second coming is just on the horizon, rather than it's already happened. Are the world events we're seeing just orchestrated by those societies who run this current new world order? And they are using all their resources and media and power to make it look like tribulation is constantly about to happen, so people will be deceived about the time they're actually in and not realize that they're just being prepped for the Gog-Magog war instead. Scary question, that one, and these are questions that kind of need to be asked, really. Are they faking tribulation currently? Just think about that. Anyway, and then obviously there's Tartarian architecture remnants, Millennial Kingdom. We have to explain as well, the Tartarian theory. That whole movement was popular over the past few years, but I think this millennial reign theory is becoming a lot more popular now. I think people are going to move away from the Tartarian stuff and start to realize this millennial kingdom actually historically makes a lot more sense, I would say. How do we explain the artwork on some of these buildings of gods and goddesses and stuff? People have theorized that these are not of the millennial kingdom, but they're of a culture beforehand, but I believe tribulation would have destroyed most of these. However, I was reading some things in the Bible today, in the Old Testament and in Isaiah and other places, and talking about the day of the Lord and explaining a vision in Daniel 7 as well, which may explain this. And a way we could maybe interpret Daniel's vision, his dream of the end times, that might explain that, actually, a lot of this architecture may have been built during a time in tribulation where the kings rose, these four kings, these four beasts, but the saints inherited it. They didn't last very long. They were wiped out via tribulation, and the saints inherited these buildings. and they were used for good rather than evil in a way. So it's not that they were built for the Millennial Kingdom, but they were built and used by the Millennial Kingdom rather than wasted. Something like that, maybe. Because if we go to Daniel 7, we'll just get it up. I think I've got the. I could just type it in, can't I? Daniel 7. We'll do the King James version. So yeah. So no, he has a vision here, and he says, he saw four great beasts come up from the sea, diverse from one another. The first was a lion that had eagle's wings, and that reminds me of Britain with America, which supposedly was America was birthed out of Europe, out of Britain. The lion and the eagle, maybe. I don't know. Again, this is just me. That immediately came to mind when I read this. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So it's talking here about, there's a second beast like a bear, and then there's a third beast like a leopard, and these are kings, that are rising. Then it says here, after I saw this, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and the diverse from all beasts that were before it. It was diverse from all beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the 10 horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the root. And behold, these horns were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. So I think this is a tribulation antichrist reimagining or vision he's having here, isn't it? This is a revelation event he's getting his version of way before the fact, And it says here, I beheld, and the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head of pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and the wheels of burning fire. So this is, I assume this sounds like it's talking about Ancient of Days is God, Jesus, and this is Yahweh and Yeshua here. This is what we're talking about, coming down after all these beasts have done their thing, and the little horn comes and says great things, and which is, I guess, an antichrist analogy. And then comes Jesus. So this is tribulation happens, comes down, and his wheels are burning fire, A fiery stream issued and came forth before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 10 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. So this seems like it's talking about the final judgment here, maybe. This is not the tribulation it's talking about here. This is talking about the final judgment at the end of time. And if your name wasn't written in the book of life, cast into the lake of fire sort of situation, So again, being obviously dreams what they are, these are analogies for multiple events at once. But it seems like there's a kingdom of 4 beasts on the earth, but the fourth one comes. Well, before the fourth one, there's this. They were cast down. These kings were cast down. These beasts were stopped in their tracks, and Jesus came. I think that's what it's saying here. And then obviously he created a kingdom where he ministered upon thousands, and people made a pilgrimage to come before him. And then judgment was set, and the books were opened at the end of it all. It says here, I beheld them because of a voice of the great word, which the horn spake. So we're going back to this little horn now. Even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. So this is saying, this Antichrist figure, this beast, will speak great words, even until he's thrown into the lake of fire. As concerning, so he's going to be saying things in deception up until that point. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away. So this is where I'm getting into. The saints got it. Yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time. And that's an interesting phraseology right here in Daniel 7:12. So Jesus comes, but these beasts are still around. These kings are still around, So what happens is he takes the kingdoms off them, the dominions are taken away, but they live still through the Millennial Kingdom. And it says during his millennial reign, there will be people in perfected bodies, and people will have extended life during that time. They will live for a very long time during the millennial reign by virtue of Christ being among them, and obviously I assume there was a lot of healing stuff going on with frequencies, knowledge of heaven was given into people, and life was just simply extended during that time. So it seems like, these four beasts that rise up, and then the Antichrist comes out of them, are then cut short by Jesus turning up. He establishes his kingdom and takes the kingdoms off of these beasts, these kings, and they have to live through it knowing they're nothing anymore, and have to bow down to, bend the knee to Jesus, basically, because their lives suddenly get extended and they have to live through this millennial reign. And then it says here, I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven. So now we're talking about Jesus coming, the second coming, aren't we? The tribulation event. And came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. And there was given him dominion, and glory, and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away. So even when the reign ends, he's still here somewhere. But it is a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. So they'll have to make the pilgrimage to the kingdom, This is a physical thing from what I'm gathering here. But this dominion will not disappear. It will simply be obscured, it seems, in the little season. Because if this is the little season and he is still here, we don't know where this kingdom is right now. But we know for certain it's not disappeared. It's not gone. His kingdom, that which shall not be destroyed. Okay? So it says here, Daniel was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me, and made me know the interpretation of the things. So here's the interpretation of what we just read there. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall rise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. So these four kings rise up, these beasts, and then everything's taken off them and given to the saints. Do you know what I mean? So that sounds like these buildings perhaps were built by these four kings which were establishing themselves on earth during this time. And then as soon as tribulation kicked in and Jesus came in the clouds with his kingdom, everything was given over to his resurrected saints instead. All these kingdoms were taken off the four kings. All these beautiful buildings, perhaps, that we're looking at now, that we're calling Millennial Kingdom buildings, maybe they were built then, just before tribulation. And when Jesus came and resurrected his saints, those martyrs, they were given as a reward these kingdoms to rule over. And they were taken off of the beasts. And that's interesting. And it says, then I would know that the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth are of iron and his nails of brass, which devoured, brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. And of the 10 horns that were on his head, and the other which came up, before whom 3 fell, even that of the horns that had eyes, and the mouth that spake great things. So 3 of these horns fall and are cast into the lake of fire, I'm guessing. Yeah, I think that's what it's saying there. So is this the beast, the Antichrist, and the false prophet? Is that what's going on here? Are those the 3 that fell? This is another tribulation reference here. Are those the 3? I might be butchering that. Sorry guys, it's late. It says, I beheld the same horn made war with the saints, and prevailed against them. So it looks like something happens here after. So if you want to go chronological order here, pre-tribulation, 4 beasts rise. It gets cut short by tribulation, and Jesus takes the kingdoms these kings create and hands them over to his saints who have just been resurrected. But there's this 4th king who lives through the millennial reign, because his life gets extended, as we read earlier, and he has to prolonged for a season and time. He lives through the millennial reign, and then at some point, this fourth beast, this fourth king, who is more diverse from all the others, has the ability to prevail against the saints. Now that's a strange way of looking at it. Is this the end of the millennial reign, and this fourth king, this fourth beast who had to live through it, takes his chance, and do some of the saints lose? I mean, what did I see? I saw some kind of medieval painting the other day, and this is obviously a very loose reference I'm making here, but it looked like they were trying to cut and dismember and cut apart people who weren't dying. These savages, these naked savages, were trying to slide. I think they were cannibals, supposedly, or something. I think someone was saying, you couldn't kill the saints. You had to, cut them into pieces, type of thing. I'm just trying to imagine how this would happen, how the saints would be beaten. War was made against the saints, and it prevailed against them until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Okay, so this is a reiteration then. So the beast made war with the saints, persecuted them. Jesus came, and then handed the saints the kingdoms. So what I'm saying here with this Daniel 7, it seems to be telling us that maybe these millennial reign buildings that we've been calling so-called weren't built during the millennial reign necessarily. Many of them could have been built just before, and then were given over to the saints as kind of like spoils of war. Because Jesus came, with a rod of iron to keep everyone in line. There was war. He didn't come to bring peace in his second coming. That's not what it says. His first coming was peaceful. The second coming is not so much. It's come to keep everyone in line. It's Judgment Day. It's that type of thing. So I just find this interesting. Daniel 7 is a very interesting passage. You should read it all yourself, just to get your own interpretations. But I like this word that it's saying, he shall be diverse from the first, talking about this final one, this final king. And I'm feeling like, is this maybe a recurring theme or metaphor that this final kingdom, which may prevail against the saints, and take over, is this the little season kingdom? Because don't we really push the concept of diversity today in our culture at large? Isn't that like a huge thing that's going onto us? Isn't that's like a language that's constantly being pushed onto us, that we are a diverse society today, and that's probably as much as I can say about that. And the fact that it's being repeated in this prophecy about an end-time civilization that is more diverse from the rest. Is this why they push it on us? Have they just lifted this word straight out of this prophecy in the Bible, and that's why they've pushed it on us today? I don't know, just something I was thinking there. So he'll speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And the issue is right now, if this is talking about the little season when this thing will do this, has he not changed the times and laws today? Is every law that we have that's secular not completely against the law of God today? And do we have any clue what time we actually live in, if this is true? If the timeline has been manipulated, is this what it's telling us here? He will change times. We won't even know what year we're in anymore during this little diverse kingdom that will devour all the earth, and break it down into pieces. We're an incredibly divided earth right now. Think how many countries there are, how many borders we have, how separated we are as a people, as humanity, as man is, today. And how I think it's interesting how this fourth beast it's iron and brass or something. It's a heavy metal infused nation, and we build metal skyscrapers today and metal buildings. Our architecture is all metal today, isn't it, and glass and plastic, rather than good old-fashioned stone. We seem to veer away from that these days. It's not so much. And I just don't. I get the feeling, that that shall be diverse from the first shall subdue 3 kings. So it's as though this final kingdom is far beyond the thing that came before the tribulation. It's far worse. You know? It's kind of like this fourth beast watched the other three rise and get defeated when Jesus came, and then once Jesus left with the camp of saints, this fourth beast stood up and said, "I'm going to do it different. I'm going to do it differently." And this is the little season we're going through now that we're living in this fourth beast kingdom now, and there's nothing new under the sun type of thing. And he shall speak great words against the Most High. That's all this kingdom does. That's all our world does today. And shall wear out the saints of the Most High and change times and laws. He'll be given into his hand until a time and times and a dividing of time. What does that mean? They shall be given unto his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. There's so much here about time being manipulated and divided and changed. This isn't like saying it's a specific amount of time exactly. Maybe this is a short season reference. I don't know. The judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and destroy it to the end. So this is right at the end of it, but the judgment shall sit. So at the end of this last kingdom, the little season, after the millennial reign, where the saints got given the spoils of war, after this fourth diverse kingdom comes, then final judgment, great white throne judgment. They'll take everything away from this fourth beast, this fourth kingdom, and it'll be consumed and destroyed in the fire, in the lake of fire in the end, before a new heaven and earth, And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominion shall serve and obey him. So is this talking about the new heaven and earth, or is this perhaps only talking about his millennial reign kingdom again? I'm not sure. This is an issue with dreams, isn't it? They're not necessarily a cut and dry start and finish story. There's a lot of symbolism and stuff within this. But this is the interpretation of the dream I'm saying here, and even then it's not as cut and dry about the timeline exactly of when or what's going on here. Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me, and my countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart. So I don't know, what do you think about that? Does any of that fit into all of this? Was this Daniel 7 vision he had, this dream vision, giving us a hint that perhaps, when Satan's released, he will change times and the dividing of times and laws, so we no longer know when we live. His kingdom will be one of diversity, which is again a time when we live. And could this also give us an explanation that the Millennial Kingdom buildings are only simply the spoils of war from the 4 kings before tribulation, and the saints were just given these buildings, and then after the millennial reign left, obviously we can speculate what happened in Little Season exactly, but this fourth beast claimed them back, set out to destroy as much of history as possible, and rebuild his kingdom out of metal, out of iron and brass, which is where we live today in the Little Season, and it's run by this fourth king. Shall we call this Satan, this fourth king? I don't know. I don't really think any other description is given of the fourth king. What have we got here? The fourth beast, all we've got is his teeth were of iron and his nails were of brass. And he was exceedingly dreadful. That's all we know. It wasn't given an animal specific. It wasn't a leopard or a lion eagle or a bear. It's just an exceedingly dreadful beast with teeth of iron and nails of brass. So I thought that was interesting. It's set apart from the rest. It's an amalgam. It's a strange beast indeed. And that just sounds like our world today. It's unlike anything that was before. It's got a different flavour to the previous corruptions. I don't know, guys. Maybe I'm going on a bit here, but I'll just bring this back to you. That's something else I've been thinking of. Do you guys have any other talking points you think are worthy to bring up when I do discuss these things with people? What do you guys think? Let me just have a look. There you go. I'm on camera as well, so you can see me. I think I need a shower, to be honest. I'm looking a bit greasy from the looks of that. Let me just have a look here. What's going on? Sorry. It's kind of all over the place. Let me just close that. that up so I can see the chat. There we go. Right, guys, I'll scroll up. There are many antichrists, yeah. England is the lion, America is the eagle's wings, Russia is the bear. Yeah. Always think of iron as machinery and AI. Yeah, I agree. Matthew 24 will be the short season. Was he describing the statue at the UN? They have described beast in front of the UN building. There's a statue in front of the UN building. Let me have a look. UN statue. Oh yeah, so it's an aljibre. Is that how it's pronounced? This statue is actually modelled after I think it's Mexican folklore. I think or South American folklore. It comes out of that region, anyway, that Middle America's region. Just so people can see here. And these are supposed to be spirit entities that personal spirit guardians, I suppose, is what they say. But it also seems to be describing the beast, doesn't it? That's described there. A lion with wings of some kind. Let me just share that with you guys so you know what I'm looking at here. This thing here. But its style, the way they've designed it, looks like it's after the aljibres of Mexican culture. These animal spirit guides. Yeah, by the colours and the patterns they've used. It's a jaguar and an eagle, they say here. But, yeah, that's pretty much what I just described in Daniel 7 there, wasn't it? So I'm not really buying that. Yeah, so the artwork is known as an alibrihe. An alibrihe represents a fantastical creature animal that was donated by the government of Oaxaca in southwestern Mexico. There you go. Yeah, so there's a plausible deniability description of what it is. Oh, it's just an alibrihe, I don't know if you've seen is it Coco? A Disney film. Let me just get this right. Coco. Ooh, the typing's not very good. And yeah, this Disney film here, which is about Mexican folklore and stuff like that. Well, the alibrijes are in there, and as you can see, it's his grandma's spirit guardian. It's the exact same creature. It's the exact same thing. I think they've got Donald Duck riding it there, but I don't know. It's a terrible image. Let's see if I can get something better. Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. There's loads of these alibrijes, which are basically all just like chimeric animal hybrids that were created just before the flood, and they try and make them into something cute and cuddly in this film for kids. But one of the main ones is this beast here with horns. It's like a chimeric goat mixed with a lion tiger thing with eagle wings. And that is, again, what's in front of the UN. It's the same thing. Here it is in a kids thing. Here it is in front of an institution that thinks it owns the world and is utterly destroying the Western world. And here it is mentioned in Daniel 7. It's the first beast was a lion with eagle wings. So we're seeing a mix of things here, aren't we? Symbolically speaking, but to have that outside the UN building is distinctly ominous, isn't it? That's for sure. Let's keep going down here. Scrolling through these comments. Sorry. The remnant described in Ezekiel 36 and 37, the saints scattered all across the nations. Interesting. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll straight down here, guys. I'm sorry if I missed any of your comments, but I just want to catch up with the actual live chat, if that's all right. And the Brie Hayes are from Osaka, my hometown. There you go, drunk wedding photography. Yeah. As soon as I read that, then I thought of you straight away. Absolutely. Um, cool QTA, very cool. Cool. I don't know what that is. Um, what part will the Masons play in the short season and final fight? Again, that's another good question. And this is the thing. I think I saw a while ago. It was a blog post somewhere. It's a really obscure blog post. If anyone, if this rings a bell as I discuss it now, and anyone knows where I saw this and read all this, let me know. But it was if someone was some woman was basically just speculating and typing. She was typing her thoughts out loud. I could tell that's all it was, and she was showing all these images of like the Shriners and Freemasons and stuff, and she was coming at it from the Tartarian angle. I don't think she was coming at it from a Millennial Kingdom angle or anything like that. And she was basically theorizing that, you know, you have first of all the founders, which are the Freemasons, who were the basically the foot soldiers or the army that went in and claimed all these buildings that were left over after the saints left and whatever happened at the end of the millennial reign. And they were the ones that established all the mental institutions and locked everybody away and took all the orphans in, you know, and sent them all over the place and did all the repopulating. They were the coordinators and organizers of the post-millennial era, you know, the millennial reign era. And obviously they probably, I'm theorizing here, this is not what they said, but above them would have been Satan, released for a little season, with all these people who lived through the millennial reign, who hated Christ and had to live through it. So maybe those three kings or the subjects who had to have prolonged life, lived through the millennial kingdom, hated every second of it because they had their kingdom stripped from them and given to these saints instead. As soon as the millennial reign's over, they were just itching to take everything back. So that's probably what the Freemasons are involved with, and all working with Satan towards this bigger agenda. So these are humans who are currently fully corrupt, you know, to the core, and are working with their father, the devil, you know. And that's what Freemasonry really is. It's Freemasonry. It's masonry that's free, and they just took it, you know, and claimed ownership and claimed they built it. But then, because of the style of architecture that was everywhere, um, including styles like Moorish architecture with onion domes and these really obscure architectures in America that shouldn't be there according to their official narrative that America was founded by Europeans, you know, the British, and obviously horse and buggy people with not much technology and certainly no Middle Eastern influence. You know, there shouldn't be these Moorish architectural style buildings everywhere, which would have been perhaps a Millennial Kingdom built thing, perhaps, or a remnant of a time where there was a an earth-wide culture, you know, that all had a consensus and a belief system. Maybe Pangea. I know Alpha Talks has theorized that Pangea did exist, and all the land masses wasn't separated by vast oceans like it is today, and you know, it was all connected. And maybe that's why we see there's such a spread of this architecture today, you know, in the remnants of the destruction of tribulation, and where everything was created with the sea and everything. I don't know, but these Moorish buildings need an explanation, don't they? So they came up with the Shriners. The Freemasons invented a sect called the Shriners, and the official story is, you know, that it's just a fun sect dedicated to having fun and having a laugh, and only high-level Freemasons get to be a member. So it's kind of like a retirement party club for the high older members of the Freemasonry, and the backstory is the guy who created it went to an Arabian themed party one night and just really loved the theme, so decided to create a secret society based on that theme with a highly Muslim Middle Eastern style and architecture, you know, Moorish architecture. And that, therefore, now we have an explanation for the history books as to why there's so much of these grand Moorish mosques type things everywhere. They all became the shrines for these secret societies, and it's such a just a contrived, crappy explanation. And maybe that's what the whole point of the secret society is. That's really just their job. Their job is just to do as much as they can to give the illusion that they created these buildings and they're the ones who established it, and they just come up with more nonsense, lies on top of lies on top of lies to create this really contrived, strange, horrible, stupid story to explain away these buildings that are everywhere. And no one's really questioned it until recently, I suppose. It's kind of always just been oh yeah, the Shriners built those mosques, or oh yeah, the Freemasons built all these Romanesque pillar style square buildings, with these huge spires, something like that all over America where they shouldn't belong. It's kind of That's kind of their job, and all their job is today really is they're just physical foot soldiers for the spiritual demons and the heavenly fathers above, the fallen angels who are still working on this agenda right now with Lucifer and at the helm to have this little season going on. It's basically that seems to be what it is, just a hierarchy, isn't it? But from their inception, I feel like Freemasons are made up of people originally who took the deal with the devil. The devil promised, you can have all these things if you work with me. So they were given the world, weren't they? They were given all these buildings. They were given everything. All they have to do is maintain the lie. And then you find that, it's the Freemasons, and then there's many other societies, not just Freemasonry. We can go down to Rosicrucians, the Jesuits as well. We can go off and name many things. Some I'm not allowed to say because of YouTube algorithms and banning and stuff. But there are many factions involved in all of this who have all claimed their piece of the Little Caesar kingdom. That's for sure. And it seems like Christendom, or Christianity, the religion, the belief system, they couldn't get rid of it very easily, probably because it's just books everywhere, and left over from the Little Caesar, and it's just too much to get rid of. Like, they did the best to get rid of as many buildings and architecture as possible. They tried to rewrite history as much as possible. Don't get me wrong, but it seems like what they did is, rather than get rid of the Bible completely and the historical narrative of Christendom, why don't we just confuse the people of our little season of what point in the story they're actually in? And that's enough to throw everything off kilter, so the people will be easily controlled, regardless of Christ, people still knowing Christ exists, and Christ is who he said he was. People are confused by the matter because they still think he's about to return for the second coming. And as long as they can get them believing that, then they won't have their eye on the real goal. They won't realize they're being corralled to fight the Campus Saints. They won't realize they're in the little season, and that's kind of the real game. And it seems like that maybe this is it. Maybe this was the whole conspiracy. This is the overarching arc for all the mini narrative arcs in between for the the conspiracy itself. Maybe this is it. This is the big one. It's not really about the shape of the thing where this narrative is playing out in. It's where we are even in the timeline of the narrative. That was the big lie. Or one of the many big lies. I don't know. Again, it's wild speculation. Let me just have a drink of tea here. I've kept it in a flask to keep it warm this time. I seem to be struggling to take the lid off. But yeah, this blog post was basically explaining the Shriners were only created as like a contrived way to explain why there's so much Moorish architecture in America, basically. I thought that was pretty funny. God, my hands are so sweaty. This lid is just stuck. Give me a second. Let me get a grip with this. Perfect. So there we go. Right, let's just go to the chat. See what people are saying quickly. Let me get down here. That's the big stupid secret. Yeah, exactly. Up north of the 49th, good to see you. Been a while. Says, I have a relative that was a Shriner and they have to swear to Allah being the true God. Oh, yeah. There's loads of other intricate stuff going on with that, which is just wild. The Shriners are involved in some crazy stuff, and so is the Royal Order of the Jesters, who's linked to the Shriners heavily. I'm actually writing about them in my book currently. I've just finished the entire chapter on secret societies and their involvement with clowns. It's a big one. It's about a 60-page chapter. I think it's turned out to be, or something silly like that. It's yeah, that's taken a good chunk of my life to write. I'm not gonna lie, it's taken 3 months just to do that one chapter, but it's dark, and I'll read it to you guys soon. You'll all find out about that. But yeah, the stuff they get up to is disgusting. Absolutely. For me, Freemasons equals Freemasonry or free buildings. Horrible little liars to this day. The ones I know/knew thrive in a world of lies. Down to every second sentence they speak is usually crappy lies. Absolutely, Margaret. Visionary Vet says, you had mentioned designing clowns into the streets. I think they named a US town for the Great American Eclipse on the 4th of the 8th. I have a video explaining this. Yeah, is it Nineveh? Is that what you're talking about? And it seems like all the eclipses are happening above places in America named Nineveh. Is that what you're saying? I think I've seen that before. Interesting concept. But again, I wouldn't trust the signs in the heavens as much today if we are in the little season. Never forget that the angels rebelled. A third of the angels rebelled in heaven. And, that means a third of the stars are not on our side anymore. And the sort of wandering planets or wandering stars, which we call planets, shouldn't be there. I know the moon and the sun is maybe a different matter, but we just need to be hyper vigilant about looking to the stars to divinate the future. We should always be careful about that, especially during a time of extreme rebellion, when we know that angels are stars. That's all I'll say about that. But again, that isn't to say that there isn't something definitely prophetic and profound. I guess is the word I'm talking about the crossing of the signs with the moon going over these places. Yeah, it seems bizarre, I'll admit. Lord Jesus' dominion shall not disappear doesn't mean that he's here on earth. It just means he's still the dominant Lord of Lords forever. Seems a big assumption to say he's here. Okay, this is the thing. Catherine McFarlane. I get what you're saying there. Okay, but I'm allowed to assume some things while I'm fleshing out this theory and idea. And this idea that the Millennial Kingdom has come and gone, the 1,000-year reign, isn't an amillennial situation where the Millennial Kingdom is happening while he reigns in heaven next to his father. I'm saying a physical kingdom came down to earth with Jesus at the helm, like a giant spaceship, shall we say, with buildings on it, if you want to imagine it like that. And everyone saw it, and it wasn't just a metaphor for reigning forever in heaven. It was a physical thing. He ruled with a rod of iron. Iron's a very dense physical metal. He kept people in line. He brought war. People had to make a pilgrimage to see him, and if they didn't, they would bring drought. This is all biblically grounded. You know what I mean? So I believe it was physical. It was a physical thing, and when the millennial reign ended, it didn't ascend back to heaven or something. It went somewhere out of our view, or our view of it was obstructed. Maybe it never even moved. Maybe it's in the North Pole where we're told there's nothing, just an ever-shifting plate of ice that melts and appears and reappears for eternity. But there's nothing there, Trust us, all the maps have removed it, That's what we're saying here. And I don't think it's a big assumption for me to say that I know he's there. I never said I knew he was there. I speculated that perhaps he is there. And this is the type of knee-jerk reactions I'm getting from a lot of people. They're not really listening to what I'm saying. Their preconceived, dogmatic teachings that were given to them from the dispensationalist, premillennialist churches stops them from actually listening to the words I'm saying here, or they feel they're not allowed to even speculate, because they think they're blaspheming by simply speculating. And it's kind of, no, we need to be, as children, at all times with this, we need to be open to learn. That's what being as a child really means. Open to understanding that we need to learn some stuff. We don't know everything in our perspective. Out from our perspective, like a child, what do we know? we are naive. So I don't know. I'm not trying to, point you out specifically. This isn't. I'm not personally. There are many people who leave comments like you, who are kind of like a very condemnative attitude towards me, even just making an assumption while I'm brainstorming, like that. You're not allowed to do that, and you need to ask yourself why you're acting like that. Why. I left someone earlier was just left a comment saying false doctrine in full capitals, and I replied in full capitals. How do you know? And the response was literally, I just know. The Holy Spirit told me. And I was like, have you researched anything? I don't need to research anything. I prayed on this, and as a Christian, the Holy Spirit tells me something. You just trust it because I know it's true because the Holy Spirit said that. I am an apostle, and even went on to say I'm an apostle. It's like, okay, so you haven't researched the concept or looked into anything at all. You prayed upon it, and because you believe yourself to be an apostle, because you didn't feel like it was true, you took that for the Holy Spirit telling you it's not true, and then you just left it, and then called it false doctrine and moved on, possibly calling me, I don't know, an antichrist, or assuming I'm something awful, like I'm trying to lead people away or something like that. And it's kind of, you sound like you're in a cult, not a free-thinking child of God who is made in His image, who has the ability to think. That's what you sound like, And maybe that's a controversial thing for me to say, but that's really what it feels and sounds like sometimes. What else have we got? Up north of the 49th says here, it says, I've been to the highest spot possible on land to get to the North Pole, Arctic Ocean in, I'm going to try and say this now, Nunayayuam, Kangana, Tariyuk. I bet I butchered that. Apparently you can't go any further without military. You're not allowed to go up there. And even if you did plan a trip with millions of pounds and a crew, you wouldn't make it very far. They would stop you. They would find a reason to stop you somehow. And they'd probably do it on some bureaucratic means, so it doesn't seem too suspect. But you ain't getting up there. It's not happening, okay? You may be able to pay for a commercial thing to take you to a specific spot they call the North Pole, where they've stuck a little red flag that you get to stand around in a circle and hold hands around, but you're not in the North Pole. You can't go there. They will not let you go there, I agree. No chance. Listen up, folks, you can study your whole life. Nobody knows, says Kevin White. Yeah, there is a part of that, true. We can speculate, though. Oh boy, very prideful to say I'm an apostle and the Holy Spirit tells you all. Many of those self-proclaimed prophets around the internet. Yeah, and I'm not claiming to be any of those things. I'm really not. Like, I'm literally just some guy who thinks a lot and says it out loud to you, to the camera, okay? I'm sat alone in my living room, late on a Friday night, talking about biblical eschatology and alternative theories, because I'm just thinking about it. That's all it is, okay? There's nothing weird, nefarious behind the scenes stuff going on. It's just what I enjoy doing, and I have these thoughts, and I need to get it out. That's all it is, okay? I'm not saying I'm being moved by the Holy Spirit to say this. I'm not trying to start a church or a movement or a cult. I'm literally just some guy speaking out loud. And I'm sure there's many people out there, as evidenced by the responses, that are also having these thoughts and just need to hear them said out loud. Because sometimes you don't know what a thing sounds like until you say it. You know what I mean? Once you hear it out in the air, and you hear what it sounds like to your own ears, I think that helps give you a lot of perspective about some of the things you think. Because when you're constantly just in your head, you can start to normalize insanity and think it's normal. But once you hear it out loud, you hear like, is that what I really sound like? And I think a lot of people in this isolated world aren't doing enough of this, and are therefore kind of going a bit crazy. There are, I think Jeffrey in the Telegram group used the phrase I liked his because I often post when people leave really, really unhinged like comments, and I think he said something like that person's conspiracied themselves crazy. Oh no, conspiracied themselves silly, or something like that. And that can easily happen. You can conspiracy yourself silly, and you need to be careful. Up North says to me, understanding conspiracy. I worked at Tuk Yoyuk Tuk. Is that right? Tuk Toyuk Tuk. Doesn't even sound like a word the more I say it. I worked at Tuk Toyuk for quite some time, and there are rumours of Inuvik of warmer north. They would know. Yeah, well, it does seem like it gets warmer the further north you actually go once you get past that cold ice ring that seems to surround the North Pole, you know. It's not like a wall, but it's really, really, really cold. And then apparently if you go a bit further, it starts to get warm again. That's what all the descriptors are, and that's what happens in The Smoky God, you know, that old book that was written, which has been posed as a work of fiction, but it seems like it's whoever that was actually saw some stuff, you know. But that's what it describes as, and the closer to the camp of saints, or this city with giants with a king ruling over them, you know, it gets warmer, you know, and they'll never let you get that far, is what I'm saying. They won't let you feel the warmth. That's for sure. Gnosis happens. Well, Douglas, yes and no. Yes and no. I'm not going to go in much deeper into that right now. Some of the people Gnosis happens to. I don't know. Okay, I'm not sure about that. And usually, people who receive Gnosis abuse it. Let's put it that way. And think themselves to be something special. Okay, I'll stop there. I was not talking about you. No, I know. I'm thinking about sharing it. Lol, what are we sharing, Plato? What are we sharing? I have no idea what you're sharing, so that's irrelevant. I have no context for that comment. Oh, that was very good, actually, my pronunciation there says up north. Okay, thanks. I just tried to say how it sounds. That's how it looks. I'm trying to say each syllable, but yeah, I don't speak that language. Let me just scroll to the end here. Yes, we can speculate for sure. That's all I can do, lol. I love the Lord Jesus. I listen to all, yet I'll claim to know nothing for sure. Yeah. Do you think Jesus was talking about Antiquitech buildings in Matthew 24:2? Well, let's have a look at Matthew 24:2. Give me a second. Matthew 24:2, is it? Do you see all these things? He replied. Truly I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down. Well, this is something, again, Vicely was talking about in his podcast recently with Decoding Babylon. And they were showing all this evidences for, like, so many buildings in the Middle East and in that region, and you know, the are just in ruins, just destroyed. These megalithic structures are just like a child's just tipped over the Lego building, you know what I mean? And there's just absolutely nothing left, and just utter chaos and destruction. And it does seem like he was serious, and I think he was likely referring to all the ancient megalithic structures of that specific geographical location. But we don't know really. This is another problem with this Millennial Kingdom angle. We've been lied to about where everything happened as well, and what we call today Jerusalem is not the real Jerusalem. It wasn't there. All the stuff, all the biblical lands of the Old Testament are not where they say it is today. What we call the Middle East, some people speculate it all happened in America, and we have to take that on board and look into it, and it seems like, yeah, maybe that's the case. The Mountain of Olives is actually in America, and a lot of what was described all happened on those lands. And we find megalithic structures in America, all over the Americas? Yeah, and these ancient structures and all these buildings, and it's possible many of them were also destroyed. Yeah, I mean, again, look at the Grand Canyon. It's just decimated, burnt land. It's been burnt to a crisp by an extremely explosive electrical charged event. Just annihilated. God only knows what was actually there before that, But who knows? Who knows what buildings he was pointing to and saying that verse about? When he was talking to the people in front of him at the time. Who knows? Like, but maybe he was, maybe, or maybe he was talking about a specific location because of where he was. I don't know. Because I think you're asking, was he going to destroy the whole Earth's worth of those buildings? But from that Daniel vision I saw, no. It seems like a lot of those buildings perhaps were given to the saints rather than being destroyed. The saints can have them and use them as they please, as kind of like a gift or a reward for enduring till the end sort of situation. But again, who knows? What do I know? What do I know? Where are your proof saints are giants? There is no proof that the saints are giants. I never said that. It just, in the Smoky God story, which is posed as a book of fiction, this person who sailed to the North Pole with his dad and ended up living in this place he found in the North Pole for like 6 months. There were giants there. They were slightly taller than him by like a few feet. I don't know. Maybe the saints were a bit taller than normal humans in their perfected, glorified bodies. Maybe that is what happened. I don't know. But I know you're talking about Genesis 6 giants here. You're talking about the Nephilim. They are something else, and they didn't look human. Look at my Nephilim Look Like Clown series if you understand what the Nephilim looked like. The Nephilim do not look like giant men. Not by our standards. Not by how every artistic rendition has always tried to show them. They did not look like humans. No. They looked like wild, psychedelic, coloured monsters with wild, crazy red hair and big, wide grins. They look like clowns. By today's standards of the language of a clown. So we're not talking about Nephilim giants here. We're talking about slightly taller human beings that are in this place in the north. That's what I'm talking about. And the evidences for that, well, there aren't evidences that there's a camp of saints up there with, it's been hidden from us. That's what we're trying to scratch under the surface. But we have a hint in this Smoky God story, for example. People speculate and put out what they believe. That doesn't make them a troll. You calling him out because you don't agree does, though. Alright, so sorry, I didn't realise, Beloved Ahmed, that you were just one of those people who was just commenting and railing against people for no reason. But there we go. Maybe not, though. Maybe not. It's a fact Adam was much taller than us and would be considered a giant to us. Is Adam an abomination? Yeah, that's what I mean. It seems like, as iterations of humanity went down throughout the generations, we get worse, not better. Obviously, evolution it's not how the evolution tells us, as we, it's kind of like, the if you make a photocopy of something, it comes out as one thing. And then if you photocopy that photocopy, it comes out a bit poorer. And if you keep doing that, as the end of the cycle, each new copy of the copy gets worse and worse and worse and worse. It's kind of like the law of thermodynamics, isn't it? I think it's that everything's in a constant state of decay. You can't stop it, you know. So it's possible the first humans were a lot bigger than us, really were, you know, and stronger and taller and healthier in every way, and just perfected bodies, you know, as God intended. And it's possible when the saints were resurrected, they were resurrected into new, glorious, perfected bodies, as it was intended in the beginning, like Adam. So it could be that the saints are taller than us. I mean, you look at a lot of these ancient buildings that we're describing as possibly millennial reign buildings, they have huge doorways, you know, and people say, well, that's just to, you know, a possible explanation is that's to let big things in, like construction stuff, you know, so you can get horse and carriages in easily as well and things like that, sure. But another explanation could be that it was for literal giant people that were walking around, the saints, the perfected saints, you know. Not everyone was resurrected into perfected bodies during the Millennial Kingdom, and there were normal-sized humans around as well at that time. It was a cohabitation of perfected saints and ordinary humans, but everybody had extended life, you know, regardless of whether you were a saint body or not, it seems. But I think the saints became immortal, but humans lived for a long time during that time, so... That's it. It's all we can do is speculate and try and create an image in our mind of what it would have looked like and how it would have played out, because we've been lied to. The winners wrote the history. So when, and obviously Jesus Christ always wins in the end, but right now it's Satan's season, and this is his time. You know, he's overthrown the time of the saints, and now it's the little season. So he's wrote the history, so we wouldn't know a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things we just cannot know, will not know, and we can only have a rough idea. And is it so wrong of us to try and figure out through speculation roughly what it could be? Is that so wrong? I don't think so personally. Saints are abominations. Well, this is the thing. I think you're confusing what I again. I think this is a language problem. I think people misunderstand it when I talk about saints. I am not talking about icon worship like something the Catholic Church today would do. Okay, I don't agree with the Catholics' practice of changing the Ten Commandments to allow idol worship and then splitting the final they get rid of thou shalt have no false idols, you know what I mean, don't worship graven images. They got rid of that commandment and they split the covet one at the end into two to fill the gap. So thou shalt not covet another man's property and thou shalt not covet another man's wife. That became two separate things rather than just one commandment, which it was originally. And they removed no idols. So then they could have their icon worship through veneration of the saints and praying to the saints as intermediaries, you know. And I don't think when the Millennial Kingdom was happening, people prayed to saints. I don't think that happened. I think people knew Jesus has authority over all. Sure, the saints can run things as kind of like, you know, middle management for Jesus's kingdom, religion, reign of the day, you know, and but it wouldn't have looked like Catholicism today. That's not what it would have looked like, and the rituals wouldn't have been like Catholics today. What we have today, it seems, if the millennial reign has already come and gone, is a false created, you know, laying claim to apostolic succession religion created today, which looks Christian, but takes focus away from Christ and onto the saints instead. Because they need to explain all these buildings everywhere they've taken over, which have saints plastered all over them. And so what they've created is this idea, you pray to the saints, you know, and we keep their bones around, you know, as like relics, you know, and there's magical powers in them, and we can... and they've created this whole convoluted religion that involves a lot of ritual, focusing on the saints rather than on Jesus. primarily, and again, they changed the Ten Commandments, they corrupted the word, they removed and added to it, so that I can't agree with the Catholic Church today. But when I'm talking about saints living during the millennial reign, it's not Catholicism, it's something else. And we're trying to piece together what that would have looked like. That's what we're trying to do here. Okay. Um, that's all I'll say about that. But again, I think this is where people get offended and say things like saints are abominations. They don't understand what I'm actually saying here. There's a language barrier with interpretation of terms. Everything has to be reinterpreted, and all our terms now have to be considered in new lights in light of the Millennial Kingdom. We have to rethink everything now. Okay. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say there. John Wedding Photographer says there's a local legend in a small town outside Osaka City where locals are convinced Jesus rested on a stone and by a hill and left his footprints. Who knows? Who knows indeed? Yeah, it seems like he would have done the rounds, wouldn't he, when he was here on Earth, like traveling around, checking out his new dominion. Absolutely. Saints were the ruling class during the Millennial Kingdom, says Gabriella. This is what I mean. They weren't. I don't think they were like dictators or anything, or like kings necessarily, but more like people went to them for advice. They were community leaders. You know what I mean? They helped people understand what Jesus was really doing. They were doing what they always did before. They were spreading the gospel basically. I assume that's what they were considered. Um, Visionary vets start over. What's that mean? As we have been seen shrinking all of animals, we have degraded as well. We are devolving. Okay. Uh, is Catholicism a vestige of the kingdom? No, the buildings are, but the religion that's been created wouldn't be. Okay. And again, I'm trying to understand. You've got the Nicene Creed, haven't you? The Nicene Creed, which is supposedly made in it was like 341 by an early church council at the command of Constantine, wasn't it? He commanded, and it's to try and unify the church in the area. He was the Roman emperor who became a Christian, I think was that what Constantine was, and he got these people together to write the Nicene Creed to try and unify the belief of Christendom during 341 era or something like that. So the early church council, we will call it, and then obviously you read the Nicene Creed, and it's relatively normal Trinitarian doctrine at the start, basic Christianity, and then it says we hold that the Catholic Church is supreme or something like that, or is the true church, and that we wait for the coming of his promised return at the end. But if the Millennial Kingdom has already come and gone, then that is nonsense. This probably wasn't really written in 341 by some early church council, it's all just contrived and made up history to justify their existence today, so they can claim apostolic succession to being what they are today. We have to literally say things that sound as crazy as that, because history would be a complete fabrication. Do you get what I mean? Like, all these words are saying that it's not true, but our eyes are telling us it's true when we look out at the world. That's what this is coming down to. It's like, but all the history books say, and all the science books say, that the Earth is a globe, but our eyes don't tell us that, do they? This is one of those type of situations again. But all the history books say the early church councils can be traced all the way to today, but our eyes are telling us the world was melted by fire. There were these insane buildings everywhere people of the time couldn't build, and the strange evidences that the times have been changed by these numbers that have been changed on things and on coins. Like, our eyes are not telling us what the words in these historical documents are telling us. They don't match up, and that's the issue with all of this. And could it be that these early church fathers didn't write that in 341, but they actually wrote that before Jesus returned the second time in like 50 AD or something? And they just tell you it was 300 years later to try and create this false narrative because these characters, some of them did or didn't exist at all, maybe, or maybe they've condensed like 30 years worth of history and spread it out over 300 years instead to try and make it seem like we can't tell you. This is how much the chronology has been completely and utterly messed up. And it's not going to just happen in one YouTube video for a couple of hours on a Friday night. I'm not going to manage to iron the entire chronology out. This is going to take years to figure out. And we might never actually get a consistent image together because there's too much corruptive information out there that it's difficult to really tell. But I think this is probably not the first time. I'm not the first to do this. I'm not. No, I'm late to the game probably, but this time we're in right now over the last decade or 2 decades is probably the only time period people have really started to consider that we need to change the chronology in a serious way, Again, it was Josephus Scaliger or something like that. Scaliger, you say it's Scaligerian chronology in the 1600s that slapped together the timeline that we follow today. And Anatoly Fomenko says it's all nonsense, and he puts his chronology together, and he says a lot of these things which we think are two different people separated by thousands of years is the same person, and it's the same event, and it's just been, well, someone's lied somewhere is what he's saying. Someone's made some stuff up here. Someone's fabricated history and added 1,000 years to it that doesn't exist or something like that, which is interesting, and so the Catholic Church is a funny one, but I'm starting to think, just as a theory, again, I'm not bringing receipts for this one, a lot of it's just made up. A lot of the history and a lot of its claimed sources, is just fabricated, like completely made up. And there's no such thing as apostolic succession all the way down to that time period, and a lot of these letters we have and back and forth, and I think a lot of it's contrived or manipulated heavily. That's kind of where I'm leaning, but again, I need to do a lot more work on this to try and figure out what's going on there. But what we call the Catholic Church today is not at all what would have been around during the Millennial Kingdom. It's something else. But again, that's a whole thing. That's a whole thing. It's hard to talk about as well. Sorry, guys, I'm just trying to read your comments here. Religion is a deep rabbit hole. It is. Church fathers were just a bunch of men trying to make a universalist idea. Yeah. And that's what they were trying to do. I understand, but when were they actually trying to do that is the question. Some people say it was 70 AD. It's when the Millennial Kingdom began. But then people argue that, well, Revelation wasn't written until 90 AD. Or something like that, 98 AD, 96. It's like, where are you getting these arbitrary dates from exactly? Like, how can you possibly know any of this? Like, I don't know. Like, I know it doesn't add up, Then I think some researchers like Noel Hadley at the Unexpected Cosmology, I think he thinks it happened around 541, which would square the early church fathers in 340 something writing the Nicene Creed. Because then 200 years later, the second coming they were waiting for did happen, but then that doesn't add up with the people who pierced him will see him coming with his kingdom in the clouds. If he was crucified, in 33, there's no way they lived 480 years to see him come in the coming of the clouds. The ones who pierced him with the spear, there's no way they lived that long. So there's something wrong with the time there, isn't there? Maybe what happened in 60 years has been spread out over 500 years in our history books today. That doesn't exist. Those 500 year gap doesn't actually exist at all. It all happened in a much condensed time frame than we've been told. This is the type of thing that we seem to need to try and do to understand. But from the outsider perspective, that seems insane to do that. Why not just trust the history we have? Why would you have to condense history and overcomplicate it? And it's kind of and my response to that would be, you have no idea how much we've been lied to, do you? You couldn't even comprehend that we could have been lied to like this. I've been doing this for 10 years. I know they can lie. Oh, that's what they lie through their teeth, and they have made so much up. Like, it's easy for me, with like a decade of experience in the conspiracy game, to go, oh yeah, they definitely just made it up. Because I've seen evidences for them doing this consistently forever. This is what they do. They just make stuff up and then make us believe it. So it's easy for me, and probably a lot of people listening here today, to go, oh yeah. A lot of ancient history is probably just a lie. But for most people, it's like, this is nuts. What we're saying is absolutely insane. It is. By any normal standard of society today, this is an absolutely ludicrous concept. It really is. And even for a lot of church-going Christians, it's a ludicrous concept to say such things, and possibly even blasphemy. Which is why I suggest everybody gets a little bit of conspiracy knowledge behind them, because then they'll realise, no, it's not. It's not ludicrous at all. It's actually this is actually the only logical way to start interpreting these things. Because there's just so much deceit and lies on top of lies. Apparently Up North has just sent me an email. Let's have a look here. This is what she thinks God's throne looks like from her viewpoint. Oh, wow. Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah, sure, let me just share the screen there so people can get a good glimpse of this themselves. There we go. This is something I've never seen before. I've never seen the Northern Lights, as they call them. But it's definitely something I'd like to see one day. Incredible. Yeah, there's something going on up there, isn't there? I know they say it's just solar energy coming in at the poles and flaring up, but part of me feels like, that's a cop-out explanation for that. Anyway, I know I didn't get through much of this stuff. I think I'm relatively well prepped. I guess I'm just kind of talking myself through it tonight, to hear myself, to think, well, I have the answers necessary when they ask the questions, Whatever questions I want to ask, I don't even know. I think Tony has only just started to think about this concept for the first time. So I think, for Tony over God Rules, it's going to be a bit more of a relaxed conversation of, what's going on here, can we figure it out type of situation. I don't think it's going to be a, so Paul, give me all the answers, right? Guy tomorrow wants how he's going to tackle the interview, but I'll be streaming it live onto here at 8 o'clock anyway, so you'll be there with me while I'm doing it. I'm not sure what questions he wants to ask or how he wants to tackle it, but it'll be interesting to find out. And more exciting news, I am speaking with Noel from the Unexpected Cosmology on Tuesday, and then the next day on Wednesday it'll be with Anthony from God Rules. So it's a busy week for big names. This Sunday I'm speaking with David over from the Nephilim Death Squad podcast. He's going to come do a truth or therapy session with me as well. He's actually, right now, the Nephilim Death Squad, so David and Top Lobster, are currently interviewing Gary Wayne. So if you want something to listen to after this, maybe go check out their recent interview with Gary Wayne, which may have just finished now, perhaps, or might still be going on, I'm not sure. But yeah, they've just been talking with him. And, I like Gary Wayne. I consider him a friend. I've got him on speed dial on Facebook. We've had a back and forth. He's been on my show twice to talk about the Nephilim and the clowns. And people have asked me, where does Gary Wayne stand on the millennial reign stuff? And I don't think this is just on his radar. I don't know what I assume he probably wouldn't humor it, and that's fine. I don't think everybody should be talking about this or believe this concept. You know what I mean? This is just something I'm doing right now on my channel. But people have asked me about that, and again, I don't think this is something that's on his radar, to be honest. And it shouldn't be. The guy's busy enough thinking about the Nephilim and getting some great work out about that, to be honest. But yeah, he's talking about the Nephilim right now with the guys over at Nephilim Death Squad, so we can go check that out. Yeah, it's everywhere. I see people on TikTok and the whole outfit's covered in crosses. Every upcoming fashion brand for younger people has some sort of Christian symbolism in it. Yeah, it does seem that way. China unveiled, woo. So I'm just trying to read you guys' comments here. I'm losing track of it. Everything is a lie. Everything they do is a lie. Niflheim, Nephilim, yeah. Norse mythology there. That's right. The land of the giants, the ice giants, the frost giants. Is it? I can't remember. The season of lie. Revelation is straightforward in its sequences, not necessary to put in or take out events. Okay. I'm not sure what that's in reference to. Another word for locust, according to concordance, is heathen. Heathen with breastplates of iron sounds like Vikings to me. Interesting. They were taken 2 weeks ago, those photos, guys, by the way. That's fascinating. It's a hell of a view. Exploring Tartaria has a beautiful video on Catholicism. I'm Catholic, no longer practicing, but I want to believe, as Exploring Tartaria, that it was a Church of Jesus that's been hijacked. Yeah, I am inclined to believe her work on it too. She was one of the first. She's like the OG who brought this Millennial Kingdom to our attention, I think. And then she just dropped off the face of the earth and hasn't posted anything since. But what she did post was a mind blower. And yeah, she gives a good speculative explanation for the Catholic Church. Absolutely. If anyone's listening hasn't listened to the channel Exploring Tartaria, she doesn't even talk about Tartaria. Okay, she's just exploring the idea that what we call Tartaria is actually the millennial reign of Christ. And she's like one of the first people to do it. If not maybe the first person to make that switch connection, which sparked everyone else's imagination. She was there at the beginning anyway, along with Conspiracy Auras and even Noel as well. But people, she was there. She's one of the original people who brought it to the forefront. And the few 4 videos she made on this are fantastic. They have the imagery to back it up as well, and she's trying to create a timeline of events the best she can, and she's thinking like, so how can we explain the statues, the Catholic Church, the building, and it's just great. Go and watch it, okay, and you'll see. But again, I don't know what happened to her. She just seems to have vanished. I think she still might post on Instagram, maybe. I don't know what happened exactly or why she didn't continue to make videos. Maybe I'll reach out to her and see if we can get her on it. That'd be interesting. Do a truth or therapy session with her, get her to open up to us. God didn't want buildings for worship. Tents were just fine. Yeah, but buildings are nice to live in. It's nice having a solid roof over your head when there's a storm, isn't it? So I think a lot of these things were used for as dwelling places rather than places of worship during the millennial reign. I don't think I don't think what a lot of these buildings are considered places of worship today were used necessarily for that purpose when they were during the millennial reign. They've been repurposed for that today. I think it's something else. I hear Midnight Ride talk about this years ago, and I was confused. I came here for the clowns. Yeah, I'm still the clown guy. I've just taken a bit of a creative break from that while I'm writing the book on the clowns currently, and I think I've said everything I could possibly say about the clowns on like a 47 episode series. You can go and watch the playlist now with hours of content on the clowns. Hundreds of hours of podcast talks, which are all on my channel as well, and there's only so much I can keep repeating about the clowns. I'm still writing the book on that. I'm still that guy. And once the book's written and published, there'll be a flood more videos about the clowns coming out and book readings and all sorts of things, and more podcast circuit going. So the clowns are never going to end, But right now, I'm also speculating about this extremely huge topic in the conspiracy culture, which is Tartaria and the possible millennial reign explanation instead. I would be remiss as a channel called Understanding Conspiracy if I didn't attempt to understand this particular conspiracy. Okay, so this is what I'm doing right now. So, stick around for the clowns. They'll still be coming up. I'm making the odd video here and there, but I want to start branching out into other topics. This is the big one that I like talking about. I talked about technology and AI with Vicky Joy Anderson a couple of days ago, and I'm clipping that one as well. So I do talk about other things. um, After the Vikings, Gog Magog poured out from the North Pole. The first place they would have hit would have been England. From England, the rest of the world. Interesting. Um, how long do you think people were living? What was their lifespan when the Christ was here on Earth for the first time? I don't know. Maybe a couple of hundred years. Maybe a few hundred years, something like that. I've got no basis for that whatsoever. I'm just saying. Okay, I honestly haven't got a clue. Um, this is how a tiny nation island like England could rule the entire world. I'm late to the clowns. Can't wait for your book. Says Quick66. Yeah, well, thank you. Just to close off, I'll show you guys what's going on with the book actually, what I've been doing lately. So just in the spirit of open, sharing with you guys, and then I'm going to call it a night. I think if anyone has any last minute things they want to say, post it in the chat, and I'll get to it in a second. But let me just share the screen here. Let me just bring up my. I think this is it. Yeah, and let's just view word count. What am I on? 78,000 words so far. 143 pages, and I'm roughly just over halfway through the book being done, so it's getting there. If I bring this up here, I have just been writing chapter 15, Secret Societies in the Circus, and this is what's this? Let me just highlight it. God, it just keeps going. This was a heavy one. This was a heavy chapter. Okay, so that one was 10,900 words, just shy of 11,000 words just for that one. That's an entire university dissertation right there, just for that one chapter. Yeah, it took a while to write, I'm not going to lie. 20 pages worth for that one chapter, going into Freemasonry, Lucifer, and magic, and just giving a basic breakdown of what Freemasons believe and what their fundamental basis of belief are. Going into Charles Dibdin, the early Freemason who invented the modern image of a clown, and ran his own newspaper called The Devil and all sorts of things, made a deal with the devil, openly said so himself before his sons created the clown. And then we talk about the circus, how it grew and how Freemasons took over it and then made it a cult as hell. Talk about Barnum and Bailey. You may have seen a clip of me recently talking about this on Instagram or TikTok. It went viral. I think it's got like 200,000 views of me talking about P.T. Barnum and the clowns or something like that. That's where all this comes from here. And then we're talking about Shriners. I went on about Shriners here for 3 pages roughly, before going on to talk about the Royal Order of the Jesters for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-ish pages. Yeah. And then finally, I'm now discussing the features of a clown and how they are related to Nephilim. So I've started this one there. And it's going. We're getting through. And this section, chapter 16, the caricature, going through each individual section of a clown, it just writes itself, because I've said this so many times, over and over and over again on podcasts, what each feature represents. So this should be a cinch to write this chapter, to be honest. And then there's a section here on the Hat Man and the Ringmaster. And then I'm going to do one on sacred clowning, and then one on DMT jesters, and then that'll be that section 2 boxed off. And then finally I'll be on to section 3, and that'll be going through every single continent, discussing all the types of versions of ancestor spirit worship and the costumes they wear to venerate and channel demons or the Nephilim. So that should be fun. And I kind of skipped ahead, and I'm currently writing chapter 27, Clown Murderers and Perverts. And I want to make a video out of this script I've been writing, but I thought, while I write the script, why don't I actually just write the book while I'm at it? So I've just done John Wayne Gacy and broken all of his stuff down. That one was heavy, getting all the stuff together to get all the information. As you can see here, all the citations I had to get for that one. And now I'm on to the Florida murder here of Marlene Warren, who was shot dead at her doorstep by a balloon-holding clown. And 33 years later, the suspect was finally arrested. And lo and behold, it was the spurned mistress. Yeah, but there's loads of serial killers and clown-related murderers I've got to go through there for that chapter. But I am writing that part out for a video, which might turn into like a 3-part special or something when I'm done. So that's what I've been doing, guys. So the book's on the go. Again, this chapter 15 killed me off. It was so heavy. Like, it's such a heavy, information-packed section, going through the secret societies and all the clown references everywhere, and doing a bit of research, finding it all, going into the tax avoidance stuff as well, and the Royal Order of the Jesters and the evil things they get up to, and it's just been, it's been heavy. It's been a heavy section. So hopefully the next few sections should just fly by. The next few chapters should be a bit easier. But writing a book isn't easy. I'll tell you that right now. Especially not if you want to do it right. It's not easy, not in the slightest. But there you go, guys. I thought I'd just share that with you quickly before I sign off. If you want to support the book, you can actually go to the link down below. There's a GoFundMe for this. See if that comes up. There it is. You can go to the Nephilim Look Like Clowns GoFundMe page. I'm still taking pre-orders. £100 or more will get you a free signed copy of the book once published. Thanks to everybody who has. As you can see, it's been overwhelming support. It's been amazing. I'm thinking I may stop pre-orders once I hit 10,000. So that's a possible 17 more pre-orders there, maybe. But that would put me up to about 70 to 80 people who have pre-ordered. Maybe more, probably about 70 people by that point. And I think that's enough. I think that's all I can probably handle for now. um, yeah, and then after that, I may offer signed copies of the book after it's published. You know, if you want a signed copy, maybe buy it once it's published, and we can sort something out. Maybe I'll sign some, and then yeah, we can do like another deal somehow, or maybe I'll do some giveaways or something. But I'm thinking I might limit the pre-orders once it hits 10,000. Anything past that target is not going to count anymore. You can still donate and support the book, and you'll get your name mentioned as a thank you. No matter what you donate, you do get a thank you. But once I hit 10,000, I'm gonna stop pre-orders. No more. I think that's it. That's what I'm feeling is the right thing to do, because if I show you guys here, let me just let's get the book up. I've got a list of names which I'm adding addresses to here, and as you can see, just at a quick glance, I've got 60 pre-orders already. That's a lot, you know what I mean? And these are the people that get a special thank you just because they donated any amount at all. But 60 pre-orders, you know, these are people from all over the world that I've got to send things to, and the logistics are going to get a little bit more of a nightmare if I don't cap it somewhere. So maybe I'll cap it at 10,000, and wherever that ends up, maybe around 70 something will be enough. That's my thinking right now. That's my logic. Okay, guys. So just thought I'd let you know that if you were still wondering what's going on with that, because I know some people are wondering whether or not I'm still taking pre-orders. But there you go. Let me just switch the webcam. So, but yeah, guys, good talk. Thanks for letting me hash this out with you guys. I appreciate it. Anything mentioned at all in the comments before I leave? Hey, UC, would you speak to the higher side chats? You would fit right in on that podcast. I've never heard of them. I have heard of them, but I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know who that is. But yeah, I'll speak to anybody about anything. Like I'm not. I have no issues with speaking to anybody. No problem. Unless they're going to try and ambush me and get me some kind of weird gotcha moment. As soon as someone tries to do that, I'm just right. I'm out. Seeing a bit. No, I'm here for a conversation, not to argue or to anything like that. But yeah, I'll talk to anybody. All the examples of millennial reign seem to be white and European people, whereas everyone else, the orphan trains, on the examples. Well, well, maybe there are evidences. It's just all I can find are these certain profiles for my culture. Maybe if people in other countries and other cultures look, they'll find their own versions and their own photographs. You know, and I don't know where to look for that kind of stuff. So I think it's a worldwide concerted effort to find all the other millennial reign evidences from all over the earth, not just within predominantly Western European cultures. I agree with you, but I'm not from any other culture myself personally, so I wouldn't even know like reference points to jump off from to find certain things. I'm trying right now doing my Nephilim stuff, you know, and who knows, maybe once I do my section 3, which is going into all these other cultures to look for their demonology and their representations of demons and how they venerate them and what they dress like, maybe I'll find some things along the way. Who knows? Unexpected Cosmology bases his timeline on old manuscripts that say Jesus resurrected the year 5500, and the millennial reign begins the year 6000, which is 500 AD. according to the Septuagint timeline. It's funny you mentioned that, Tonelli, because I actually just watched a video today that MK Ryan suggested to me, which is a smaller YouTuber. Let me just get his name up. Bible Scribe? Is that his channel? Let me just get the video up. Yeah, Bible Scribe. He only has up 2,000. Let me just share the screen. This guy here. Yeah, and he did a video showing all the references that he can find for this 5,500 year from Adam to Christ that you were talking about. And yeah, there are quite a lot. I agree. It seems like there's something to that. Absolutely. So I get where Noel gets it from after hearing all this, what this guy had to present. So maybe if you guys want to go check this out, go to Bible Scribe and look for this video. This one right here. And maybe it'll be, because he literally just put it on 2 times speed, and he just goes through it in 10 minutes, and he shows every quote from every biblical source about this 5,500 year timeline prophecy. And it's fascinating. It is fascinating. I'm not sure 100% what that means yet in terms of millennial reign stuff. I don't know if he's an amillennialist, or I don't know where he stands in his own view. But yeah, it's funny you should mention that, is all I'm saying there, because I have literally just been looking at that specifically. You've been busy, Paul. I have been busy. I'm always busy. I know you guys might not understand, but I'm self-employed, so I have everything I do is time is literally money to me now. I have a family to feed. I've got to grow. I've got stuff to do. I've got bills to pay. So everything I do, is work, including this is work to me. Believe it or not, I have fun doing it. Don't get me wrong, but this is my job essentially next to my photography company. So yeah, I'm busy. I'm always busy. What can I say? Will it be for purchase? Where, when, no pressure, lol. In PDF or physical? Once it's published, there'll be multiple formats up north. It'll be probably just a paperback copy at first. It depends on the prices, but maybe I'll do a hardback copy as well. But it'll be paper at first. It'll be a book, and then I'll probably do a cheaper Kindle version, perhaps. And then I'm going to do an audiobook probably. I'll probably read it myself. I'll read the book, record it, and compile that into an audiobook, and then I'll probably sell that as well. I don't know what form. That probably the same price as the actual book itself, because reading a full book is difficult. And editing the audio, not the time that's going to go into. But I'm hoping to get it released in all formats. And then once it's released, I'm open to people translating it and doing all sorts of things afterwards. Who knows? But yeah, I think it'll be ready probably, hopefully, the end of the year. I think that's a conservative aim. But books take a long time to write. I'm not looking to just write a quick 50-page unreferenced opinion piece. I'm actually trying to back this up with history and quotes, and I'm doing it right. I'm trying to have to get it proofread as well, and I'll have to get I'll have to have loads of things done to get it up to a standard. But that's the journey, I'm having fun doing it. So it'll take time. I'm hoping by the end of the year, the book will at least be written, the manuscript will at least be done, and then it'll just be a case of getting it published, getting the book covers, getting all the legal stuff done, all that type of thing. My wife has said you need to email him. Reality. And what did I miss? What did I miss there? who's emailing me and why? I've missed something. I don't know what that's about. Oh, buy the audiobook too. Thanks. Yeah. Um, yeah, make sure to thumb up and like the video, guys. Um, oh, another for anyone who's interested, quick health update. I am finally getting treatment for my hemochromatosis. So my ferritin iron levels were through the roof, dangerous organ damaging levels, over 1,000. I have had two venisections now, and I'm going for my third on Monday, and then they'll be weekly rather than every 2 weeks from there. So I'm getting the iron out of my body, which will prevent my organs from being damaged, and hopefully I will wake up in the morning not feeling like I've ran a marathon eventually. Okay. I don't rest. My muscles can't relax. That's the side effect. When like say you go for a long walk or a hard day at work and you melt into your sofa and just let your muscles just relax. I can't do that. So when I go to bed at night and sleep, my body doesn't detense. So I wake up in the morning kind of all solid, and curled up, and I have to kind of slowly undo myself and uncrack everything, and just kind of it's really hard. My muscles are just full of so much metal that I can't relax. So I feel exhausted every morning. Like mentally, I feel refreshed because I've slept, but physically, I don't feel like I've had any sleep whatsoever. And I've been living that life for about a year now. But I'm getting treatment, and hopefully I should start getting better soon. I need to get. I'll be getting tested on Monday to find out how much it's dropped over the past month. So that should be good. Um, Wow, Paul, I'm currently dealing with anemia. Ferritin was a 4. Yeah, that's not good either. That's really not good. We've talked about this before. I've joked about it with my wife, but the irony is that she's anemic, and I'm the complete opposite. I have extremely high iron, so we've joked like, can she not just take my blood when we transfuse? Because I'm a universal donor anyway. So, but we're both really, really, really like lethargic and low energy because we both have the opposite problem, but the same problem. The funny thing is, when you have really low iron, it's the exact same side effects as having really high iron for some reason. So, yeah. Paul, you're like the real life Wolverine from X Men. I prefer Iron Man. I prefer being called Iron Man than Wolverine. Um, yeah. I have extremely high iron, and I'm O negative as well. Yeah, so we have that in common. You go up north. We're both universal blood donors and have high iron. Well, this is the thing as well. It's called the curse of the Celts. It's something a predominantly northern European people get, Celtic people get. Anyone can get it though, from any race or any blood type. It's not because of that. It's just more prominent in northern European people, so they call it the curse of the Celts. It's just some kind of genetic defect we get. I think it's like I think black people get sickle cell, don't they? I think that's something that's predominantly a black person problem. But I assume any race can get it. It's kind of like that, It's just something white people have to deal with more so than others for some reason. I have no idea what it is or why. No one knows why exactly. They just know that it's a genetic defect that seems to be carried predominantly in this particular race group. Um, so there you go. A bit of a tidbit of information if you're wondering about it. Um, Yeah, yeah. Guys, don't start giving me you need to heavy metal detox and all that sort of nonsense. This has nothing to do with that. Um, Although, no, I do chelate iron out of my system as much as I can by drinking things like green tea and whatever and milk thistle. It's a genetic condition. Like, I absorb more iron than normal people because I don't have a barrier in my duodenum, which is the tube that comes out of your stomach, connected to your liver. Now, most people have a gene that activates and stops iron from getting through the barrier, the membrane. I don't. So it just floods through, and then my body has an overload of iron, and then it tries to store it in places. And because all my little iron carriers, my proteins are full of iron, and it can't find anywhere in the blood anymore, it doesn't need it in the blood, it stores it in my organs, and then my organs get full, and then it becomes toxic. And then these little storehouses of iron in my organs overflow, and that's extremely toxic, and then it can damage the tissue. And then my organs get cirrhosis, and then I die 12 years later because I can't get a transplant. That's how it goes. That's the process when it gets too extreme, okay? It's not about I need to heavy metal detox. It won't change that my gene doesn't exist or is deactivated or is faulty. I will always I will forever continuously absorb a lot of iron when I eat food. Way more than an average person. An average person takes 20% of the iron from food. I take 100%. Do you get what I mean? Because I don't have that barrier in the membrane like normal people do in my stomach. So that's the root cause of where the iron gets into my system. And then my body can't break it down as fast as other people either. It's a twofold issue. So it stores it instead, and yeah, it becomes a whole thing. So what I need to do is get the iron out of me quickly before my organs get damaged. And the only quickest way to do that is to remove blood a little bit at a time. Because then your body uses iron to make new red blood cells. So it uses up the iron in your body quickly, and it takes it out of your organs to use to make new blood, to replenish the lost blood. So that's why it's the quickest, fastest way to fix that problem. And then once it's down to normal, I'm in maintenance. So then I'll have to ease it on the stakes a little bit, and regularly get checked. And once it starts going up again just a little bit, you just get a quick blood draw to bring it back down to normal levels. No, that's my life forever now. That's basically it. It's the simplest solution, all right? I don't need advice on heavy metal detoxes, okay? I've thought of every angle, trust me. This is how I save my life so I can see my child grow to be an adult. This is the best way of doing it. But yeah, I will be donating blood probably once I'm in maintenance. They won't accept me until I'm in maintenance anyway. I saw the word duodenum there. We're laughing at me saying the word duodenum. Yeah, I imagine you are laughing at me saying that word. Yeah, my wife. Oh, here he goes. That's his new favourite word, that I swear. Duodenum. I think it's a really funny word. Uh, duodenum. Say that 10 times. It starts to lose all meaning. Is there iron free food? No, unfortunately, not really. Everything has iron in it to some extent. There are things that have lower iron than others. There are actually two types of iron. There's heme iron, which is what's in meat, and heme iron is what your body absorbs easily. It's easy to absorb heme iron. And then there's non-heme iron, which is in vegetables and everything else, everything that's not meat. Your body doesn't easily take in heme iron. Non-heme iron, because non-heme iron is requires breaking down first before your body can absorb it, because it's in clusters or something like that. So your body usually passes it before it has a chance to actually absorb it. But heme iron is loose iron particles which can easily be absorbed into your body very quickly. So essentially, I need to go full vegetarian to lower the amount of iron I get quickly. That would be the way I would avoid having to get my blood drawn as often. But it doesn't matter what I do, my iron levels will just continue to increase. They'll never go down on their own. They will never just drop by my body doing. That doesn't happen with hemochromatosis. They just keep going up. That's it. It's forever. The more I eat, the more it goes up, and then I have to go get my blood drained to bring it back down. The normal human body would just keep it balanced and regulated. It would use the iron when it needs to use it. It would drain it out of your system when it doesn't need it, when it has an excess. My body doesn't know how to do any of that. So that's the difference. Okay, it's a defect. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do other than just maintain it by not eating as much meat and draining my blood regularly. Donating blood regularly, shall we say that? Okay. They slap me on the table so fast when they find out my blood type. Yeah, most doctors are pretty clueless about most things. A lot of this I had to do my own research on and get treatment for and push through. Um, when I told my GP about my symptoms, it was just a quick Google search, and then okay, let's just find out what it could be. And when he found out it was hemochromatosis, he was like googling hemochromatosis in front of me and saying, "Yeah, so the symptoms seem to be this, they seem to be that." Like I've read the exact same websites you have read. I know what it is. Like just get my blood drained. Hurry up, get it done. Why are you wasting time? It's like they don't know what to do half the time, They're my means to get to the thing I need, so I've got to tell them what I need so they can refer me, and it's all these type of things. Um, but most doctors are clueless about most things. What is your blood type? I've already said O negative. Prophets talked about the second exodus from all nations. It hasn't been fulfilled yet. This second exodus includes a resurrection and Gog and Magog battle. Okay. Kotak. I saw something recently that was stating your optimal diet is related to your blood type. Not sure if there's any merit to that. I've looked into that already. Apparently, for my blood type, the optimal diet is high protein meat. The one thing that will kill me with this condition if I eat too much all the time. So there's some sick irony in that because I am a meat eater. I like eating, I always have. I've eaten a lot. Steak, anything under the sun, I just eat a lot of meat. So this is some kind of sick, cruel, cosmic irony that now I have to cut my meat down because the iron in it is too much. God has a sense of humor, doesn't he? Um, so there goes my theory out the window. But this is the thing, though. You are right. I don't feel satisfied unless my meal has had meat in it. Like if you look into my blood type, it says that it's something about the way the proteins work in my body. But like for my blood type, a high protein, high meat involved diet is what I should be eating. Um, so it's kind of annoying, because I've been doing the vegetarian thing while I'm trying to keep myself from getting damaged while I'm waiting for treatment, and it's been really rough because I don't feel full. My body doesn't feel like it's had any sustenance, even though I have eaten plenty, because there's no meat. It's like my body's screaming for it. My blood is screaming for it, shall we say? Um, what do you think about the North Star, Iron Man? Oh, it's catching on, is it? Polaris. Oh, I think it's a very important star. It's the star where all of the stars rotate around. I mean, if stars are angels and it's a high order angel who has a point to a place to be, um, and it would naturally be right above the North Pole, wouldn't it? Which is where Jesus would be, I guess, but I don't really have much else to say about it. Um, I once got an allergic reaction to pain medication, and at the ER, I was told I had HIV by the doctor after looking at my swollen foot. So yeah, doctors aren't always right. Wow, that's a huge miss there. That was a drastic, way off miss there. I've never eaten meat. I was raised without it, so I guess I don't have those problems. Yeah, fair enough. Oh, don't start giving me how you can get complete protein by taking the right. Don't give me all that. Look, I like a good steak. I'm sorry, I can't. If I'm gonna get my protein, I'm just gonna eat meat. All right, it's as simple as that. Don't start getting all preachy to me about it. Um, but yeah, if I eat too much dairy, I become lethargy. See, I'm the opposite. Anything that's rich in protein, like my body just thrives off of it. I don't feel like I've had any sustenance without it. My wife's gonna look at her blood type diet now. Yeah, you've clued her onto something. There's a reason it's called practicing medicine. Yeah, absolutely, Wendy. Yeah, they're just making up as they go along. Steak and eggs is fire. Absolutely, it is. Right, guys. I think this conversation's gone off the rails now. We're talking about diets, so I'm gonna call it a night. Okay. Thanks for listening again. If you want to support the book, links down below. Keep an eye out on the channel over the next week. Now, like I said, I've got a lot of big names coming on the channel. We've got Tony from God Rules on Wednesday. I've got Noel on Tuesday from the Unexpected Cosmology. I've got David from the Nephilim Death Squad on Sunday. And I'll be on a podcast tomorrow night as well, which I'll be streaming live to the channel as it's happening. So keep your eyes open. And yeah, guys, God bless.